Hello everyone and welcome to area and circumference of a circle. This is something that you guys have seen a little bit before in the past, but some of it might look a little bit different. And some of this is just going to be a bit of a review so we can refresh on our vocabularies of circles. So the first one is diameter. So the diameter is the line that cuts all the way through the circle. So a line that cuts through the circle. Through the center, I should say. Through the center. To the sides. Of a circle. Okay, so it cuts all the way through. So it goes through the center, cuts all the way through. The radius connects from the center to the side of a circle. Okay, so this is like half. All right, so it cuts halfway through. All right, circumference. Circumference is like the perimeter, so it would be like as if you were to take a fence around the outside of the circle. So on the outside here, so I would have, boom, this out here would be called the circumference. Okay, so the circumference is like the perimeter of the circle. And then the area is going to be like the amount of paint you would need to cover it, or the amount of like anything you need to color the inside of the circle. So it would be the space inside the circle. Okay, there are a couple of equations. All right, so if we, or a couple of formulas that we'll use. Circumference is equal to pi times diameter. Or, since the diameter is just 2 times the radius, so it's double the radius, you can write it as circumference equals 2 pi r. Okay, and all that's multiplication through there. Also, for area is equal to pi r squared. These are the two. Hopefully you write them here on your paper. I will also put them on the board in class so that you all have these formulas to use. Okay, so all those, the differences, radius is half the diameter, and I've got my two formulas that I can use. Okay, so I'm going to do number 1 here, and we'll see what you guys can do with B and C. So use the formulas of area and circumference of a circle to answer the following questions. Give your answers in terms of pi. If you could circle that or highlight it in terms of pi. Then use the pi button to round to the nearest tenth. I will show you what terms of pi means. That's kind of a new term for you. Okay, so here, if you look at this first one, the line goes all the way through. That means it's showing the diameter. So if the diameter is 7 centimeters, the radius is always going to be half of that. So if you divide that by 2, you would be 3.5 centimeters. Okay, radius, or the area, I'm going to use my equation of area equals pi r squared. Okay, and I'm just going to plug in what the radius is. So area equals 3.5 squared times pi. So this would be in terms of pi, which means I should see a pi with that. So if you guys were to get your calculators out, okay, I'm just going to plug in the 3.5 squared part. So I'd go 3.5 squared is right underneath, 2 underneath the math button, equals, okay? So that would be after I square it. So it'd be 12.25 pi. So I'm just going to evaluate that part. So whatever that radius is, this would be in terms of pi. So it'd be 12.25, and I'm just going to throw a pi there. Okay. In terms of pi means I see a pi. Then you're going to actually physically multiply it out. So then when I multiply it, so this kind of deals with your Khan Academy too. It's a lot easier to put it in terms of pi because then you're not rounding it. So what I can do is I'm going to take this answer and then I can just multiply that by pi. So pi is right above, it's right by the caret. I believe it's on the red calculators as well. So if you hit second and then the caret button, okay, you'd get 38.48, which would be your answer. But if I round to the nearest tenth, it'd be 38.5. You could also put this all in your calculator at one time. You could go 3.5 squared and then times pi. Okay, and it'll give you the same exact thing. Okay, so it says round to the nearest tenth, so it'd be 38.5. 30/10th place, so it'd be 38.5. That would be centimeters squared. Okay, for the next one, for the circumference, circumference equals pi times diameter. So for these, like, you can kind of flip-flop. I always bring my numbers first before the pi. Whenever I just kind of flip-flop them, but a lot of times you see the formula like this. So circumference equals, I'm going to take my diameter, so 7 pi. This would be my in terms of pi because I see the pi symbol, so 7 pi, which would be equivalent to, if I go back to my calculator, so I could go 7. You don't even have to put the multiplication in there. You can go 7 pi, boom. You get 21.99 right there, so that would round everything up to 22 centimeters. Okay, I'm going to let you guys pause and I will let you try B and C from there. Okay, so right here it gives us the radius, so 9, diameter would be 18. When we plug it in, I have 9 squared. So it would be 81 pi for the terms of pi, and then when you actually multiply it, 81 times pi in your calculator, 254.5. Same thing with circumference, pi times diameter, 18 pi, boom, 56.5. For letter C, gives me the diameter, cut it in half for the radius. Okay, notice I actually put 2.4 squared, which is 5.76. So it's everything that, all the math you do before you put the pi in your calculator should be in terms of pi. In terms of pi means I should see a pi. And then the circumference is down here. Okay, 4.8 pi, 15.1. All right, now if we go to the next one, and number 2, this is where things get a little bit different. Okay, because now it's giving me the circumference. Okay, so this I will emphasize, make sure you write things out. All right, things are a lot easier if you just write it down. If you get confused, just write down what you know. It's like circumference in your mind. Oh, I have a formula for circumference. So let's write it out. Circumference equals pi times diameter. Well, now, if it tells me circumference is 80 pi, okay, I'm going to plug that in for the circumference. So it's giving me the circumference in terms of pi. So I'm going to plug this in for the C, right there. Then I would have 80 pi equals pi times diameter. Well, now I ask myself, well, I should be able to cancel some stuff out. I should be able to solve for d. Okay, so this pi kind of treats like a variable, even though it means a number. Okay, so on both sides here, if I need to get d by itself, I can divide both sides by pi. And then, boom, these guys cancel out, and so the diameter is 80 feet. Okay, the radius, cut that in half. Okay, and then for the area equals pi r squared. So it looks just like what we did before. Area equals, I'm going to do 40 squared times pi. Okay, put 40 squared in your calculator, which is 1600. Okay, leave, if pi is in the question, leave it in terms of pi. Okay, so there we go. Boom. I see this has a pi in the question, so I'm going to leave it in terms of pi. Right there. All right. If you'd like to, you can pause and you can try the next one. But I will also work at it here. So then this circumference, so I have C, 267 equals pi times diameter. But now when I divide by pi, all right, I don't have the pi actually cancel out with something. So I have to physically divide it in my calculator. So to find that, I would have to go, let me go back, 267 divided by pi, 267 divided by pi, which is 84.98 or 85 when I round. So diameter is equal to 85. So the diameter is 85 inches. 85. Then you can divide that by 2 to get 42.5. Okay, then when you do the area equals pi r squared, you would have area equals 42.5 squared times pi. 42.5 squared is 1806.25 times pi would be 5,674.5. Now, you will have some big numbers. That is okay. Do not be scared by some big numbers. Okay. All right. I'm going to see if you guys can do C and D. Oh, you're using the area. Keep in mind, you may have to use the square root. Go ahead and pause. So here's letter C. Okay, if you look at the left side here with the area, all right, I divided by pi on both sides. The pi's canceled out. And I took the square root of 121 to get 11, and I plugged it in. Now, if you look at letter D over here, it's going to look a little bit different because they don't cancel out. So I've got the first part where I canceled out the pi on the right side, but I physically have to divide it in my calculator and then take the square root. So this is how you do it in your calculator. You would do 100 divided by pi. Okay. Now, anytime you have this, I need to take the square root of this answer. So without rounding, I can go second square root, which is right by the square. Okay, and I can bring up that previous answer. So instead of typing this in, I can go second and then hit the negative button, which is ANS. Boom. So it would be 5.6 would be my radius. Radius equals square root of my answer, which was 5.6. So to finish out, you can put in the radius here as 5.6. All right, your diameter would be, multiply that by 2, which would be 11.2. Okay, and then your circumference. Again, since the only difference here is, I'm not going to be too picky about this, but this is so that you're just exposed to the terms of pi. Like if there's a pi in the question here, there should be a pi in your answer. So since there's no pi here, you can actually just multiply it out. So then for your circumference, you can do 11.2 times pi in your calculator. So it'd be 11.2 times pi, which will give you something like 35.2 meters. Okay, as you go through and you go through this box down here at the bottom, all of these are lined up with these examples up here. So if you get stuck, my thing is make sure, I would use another piece of paper so that you can, you know, write things on the sides and write out the actual equations. But each one of those, like I would make sure, hey, here's an area 1, what do I do with the area? That sort of thing, and write out. If you get stuck, write out the equation. It'll tell you when to cancel the pi's, and it'll tell you when to actually divide and that sort of thing. All right.